Thousands of years ago, in a small village among the golden hills of Israel, it was said that a simple man, owner of a small cloth stall, transformed his destiny just by pronouncing a name. It was not magic, nor coincidence. That name, hidden in the sacred letters of the Torah, carried a silent force that changed realities. He had no gold or land, but inside his house there was something few knew how to invoke: the true drawing power of prosperity, engraved not on papers or contracts, but in the spirit of words. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. Have you ever wondered why some peoples, even in the face of centuries of challenges and dispersions, continue not only to survive, but to thrive, building wealth and legacy generation after generation? At the heart of this answer lies something much bigger than modern financial techniques. There is an ancestral key, jealously preserved, passed down from father to son, from rabbi to disciple, the secret of the power of sacred names. In Judaism, names were never just sounds. They are codes, active forces that shape realities. Words have life, energy, vibration, and some names, carefully guarded in the Torah, not only protect, but also unlock streams of blessings, including financial prosperity. We are not talking here about cheap mysticism, but about an ancient wisdom that has shaped cultures, formed successful entrepreneurs, and sustained generations of Jewish families in the midst of the chaos of the world. Today, I want to take you beyond everything you've ever heard about wealth, money, and success. We are going to enter a territory where Jewish financial education meets the deepest spirituality. Let's unveil together a sacred name, little known outside of traditional circles, which, according to Torah and Kabbalistic tradition, has the power to transform not only your view of money, but the energy you attract into your life. Get ready, because throughout this video, you will discover how words, when understood in the right way, can open paths to prosperity that goes far beyond your bank account balance. And what comes next is something that few have dared to reveal. Being part of a circle that understands this wisdom is more than a privilege. It's a conscious step toward a life guided by ancient principles that continue to shape great success stories to this day. Every word we share here carries a heritage that has spanned generations, sustained entire families, and created legacies that time has never erased. Being among those who seek to understand the secrets of Jewish prosperity is like turning on a light that few still know. And it is precisely to keep this flame of knowledge alive that this channel exists. By being part of this community, you connect to an age-old tradition that teaches you not only how to grow financially, but how to live with purpose, vision, and true abundance. Subscribe to the channel and strengthen this chain of wisdom that spans centuries. There is a space reserved for those who value the power of Jewish financial education and believe that prosperity and spirituality go hand in hand. Throughout history, in communities scattered throughout the four corners of the world, the Jewish tradition has preserved something that few peoples have been able to maintain with such strength: the awareness that words carry life. Among the oldest teachings, transmitted from generation to generation, there is a solid belief that names are not mere sound identifications. Each letter, each phonetic combination, is seen as a container of spiritual energy, capable of impacting realities in a profound way. This perception has taken even more shape within the Kabbalistic tradition, where it is understood that the universe was created from the divine word, and that the letters of the Hebrew alphabet represent not only sounds, but creative forces in themselves. Within this context, certain sacred names are considered channels of blessing, acting directly in opening paths to protection, wisdom, and material prosperity. In low-key neighborhoods of New York, for example, where Jewish communities flourish among busy buildings and alleys, it's common to find small establishments that discreetly carry symbols and inscriptions that reference these sacred names. This is not superstition, but a deep respect for the energy that words carry. A shopkeeper may have at the entrance of his store a mezuzah, a small capsule where, among other writings, the name Shaddai appears, one of the names that, according to tradition, invokes protection and abundance for that place. This strategic use of names is not new. When observing old contracts, commercial documents preserved in museums, or even the architecture of historic synagogues, one notices the discreet but intentional presence of sacred expressions that link each undertaking, each negotiation, to a greater force. In more traditional business circles where Jewish families have created solid business dynasties, this spiritual connection has never been overlooked. Before a major agreement was signed, it was common to seek a specific blessing, invoking the correct name in the correct way to ensure not only financial success, but the legitimacy and fairness of that negotiation. This intimate relationship between names and prosperity has crossed time and found ways to manifest itself in discreet but powerful practices. Inside homes, in discreet family gatherings, a prayer was often said using precise words, carefully chosen to strengthen the financial health of the home. And it was not uncommon for young people, when starting new businesses, to receive a special blessing that directly invoked attributes of growth, abundance, and balance, all anchored in the conscious use of sacred words. Unlike the modern view that associates success only with hard work or market techniques, Jewish wisdom has always integrated a spiritual layer into the pursuit of prosperity. To prosper, in this understanding, is not only to accumulate goods, but to align oneself with a current of abundance that has existed since the dawn of creation, accessed by those who understand the subtle language of the soul. Interestingly, even in the largest metropolises, where the noise of everyday life could stifle ancient traditions, this practice remains alive. In quiet meetings, in discreet offices of major financial centers, it is possible to see that this ancient reverence for the power of names still inspires important decisions. Sometimes a contract is preceded by a short blessing. Other times, a word written in Hebrew occupies a small space in the room, as an invisible reminder that business, when connected to spirituality, flows more solidly and consistently. Understanding this completely changes the way we see the construction of wealth. It is not enough to just desire, work, or invest. There is a deeper level, an often overlooked layer, where the conscious choice of words and the invocation of names charged with spiritual purpose are fundamental parts of the process of building a prosperous life. This tradition, which for many remains invisible, is precisely what differentiates those who thrive consistently from those who only try to replicate techniques from the outside in. And when one observes the journey of Jewish families who built empires from small beginnings, the pattern repeats itself. Faith, discipline, respect for words, and above all, the wisdom of understanding that true gold is both in the hands and in the mouth of those who know what to pronounce. As we delve further into this universe, we will discover that there is a specific name hidden between the lines of the Torah that carries the promise of abundance and protection. A name that, when understood in its essence, changes the way we deal with our choices, our business, and even the dreams we still want to fulfill. As we delve deeper into the wisdom of the Torah, we find a truth that spans millennia. The name, within Jewish tradition, is much more than a label for identification. He is considered an extension of the soul itself. In each syllable, there is a trace of the person's mission, a spark of divine energy, a purpose written in the stars long before any material success happened. The Torah reveals that God's own name, revered as Hashem, literally, the name, is seen as the ultimate source of life, order, and prosperity. Everything that exists has been shaped by the power of words, by the sacred vibration that emanates from the divine name. And not by chance, throughout history, names have been strategically changed to rewrite destinies and, consequently, unlock new paths of growth and abundance. One of the most impressive examples is that of Avram. His original name meant exalted father, a respectable title but limited in its scope. By being called Avraham, father of many nations, he was given not only a new identity, but a new spiritual and material mission. With this small change of letters, a dimension of prosperity was opened up for him that transcended generations, transforming him into one of the greatest pillars of the spiritual history of humanity. It was not just a symbolic issue, it was a real activation, a redesign of its trajectory, which even altered its ability to generate wealth and legacy. In more traditional Jewish neighborhoods, both in historic cities and in large contemporary centers, It is still possible to witness how this respect for names is maintained. A newborn is given a name not by fashion or appearance, but through deep reflections on its meaning, its spiritual root, and its potential impact on the child's future. Each letter is carefully chosen. Each sound carries an intention that surpasses time. This practice is also reflected in the business world. There are fascinating stories about families who have changed small details in the names of their companies or products, seeking to align them with the strength of words that refer to abundance, wisdom, or protection. The choice of a right name, pronounced with awareness and purpose, can become an invisible key that opens doors of opportunities that, for others, remain closed. This understanding makes all the difference. The right name connects the person or project to a high frequency of achievement. The wrong name, or empty of purpose, can cause the energy to disperse, like a boat adrift without direction. And this is not an isolated belief. Stories of name changes that brought extraordinary financial upheavals appear repeatedly in historical archives, in personal affidavits, and in records of great Jewish families who built fortunes in a solid and discreet way. Kabbalistic tradition further deepens this understanding, teaching that each Hebrew letter possesses a unique energy, and that the combination between them can invoke specific realities. Prosperity, wisdom, health, protection, all of these can be consciously attracted depending on how we connect to the right names. And that is why it is not enough to superficially know a sacred name. It is necessary to understand it, respect it, and know how to integrate it into daily life. Among the oldest Jews, there was a silent and beautiful custom. Before starting a new phase of life, a new project or a new journey, a blessing was pronounced involving a sacred name appropriate to that intention. It was not a question of magic formulas, but of aligning words, thought, and action to a force that already existed and was just waiting to be touched. All this wealth of tradition leads us to an inescapable conclusion. Not all names unlock prosperity. There is a specific combination, a secret kept for generations, that makes the difference between a life that just tries to thrive and a life that flows toward abundance naturally and steadily. This revelation, which few know about, is what differentiates the results of those who only try to copy financial strategies from the outside in, from those who access the true invisible code of prosperity, a code written millennia ago in the very structure of creation. And so that this wisdom remains alive and pulsating, I want to propose a special interaction. Write in the comments a word or expression that represents what you most want to attract to your life. It can be abundance, protection, wisdom, or whatever comes from your heart. Each comment will serve as a symbolic reminder of the strength that the names carry and the energy that we want to cultivate together here. Among so many secrets kept in Jewish tradition, there is a name that stands out as a true portal to abundance and protection. And this is where the journey we're taking together gets even more fascinating. After understanding that words carry weight and names shape destinies, the time has come to reveal one of the greatest hidden treasures of the Torah, the name El Shaddai. Far beyond a simple religious reference, El Shaddai is an expression of power and sufficiency. El is the Hebrew term for God, representing strength, sovereignty, and active presence. Shaddai carries an even more special meaning. It comes from the root that expresses one who is sufficient, one who supplies all needs. When combined, these two elements form one of the most powerful and revered names within Jewish tradition. The God who is sufficient, the one who provides everything in abundance and without limit. Over the centuries, El Shaddai has been invoked in times of great decisions, in times of uncertainty, in times when families needed guidance and real prosperity. And the most interesting thing is to realize that this invocation was never made in a noisy or public way. It happened in silence, in discreet gestures, in small murmured prayers before opening a new store, signing an important contract, or starting a new life project. In traditional neighborhoods where Jewish families keep their roots alive even in the midst of modernity, it is common to see the letter SH, Shin, which represents Shaddai, engraved on the mezuzot placed on the doors of the houses. It's not an embellishment. It is a daily reminder of the protection and provision that flows from El Shaddai, Entering and exiting under this blessing creates an atmosphere where prosperity is not only sought, but naturally attracted. This understanding goes beyond theory. Many entrepreneurs who now conduct successful businesses learned as children that mentally invoking El Shaddai in moments of doubt or risk was as important as good financial planning, a teaching that, discreetly passed down from generation to generation, has shaped leaders who today occupy prominent positions in large markets without giving up their spiritual principles. Within Jewish mystique, El Shaddai is believed to represent full sufficiency, the idea that everything we really need is already potentially available, just waiting for the right activation. By consciously invoking this name, we are not asking for something external, but reminding our spirit that the source of true wealth is internal and infinite. This invocation is also associated with protection. In ancient times, it was common for merchants and travelers to discreetly engrave El Shaddai's letters on their belongings to ensure safety on journeys and successful negotiations. This custom survives to this day in subtle ways, in personal practices that are not always exposed to the public, but which continue to positively influence the trajectory of those who understand the hidden power of words. For those who live in intense urban centers, where competition is fierce and the pursuit of financial success can easily disconnect people from their values, integrating this awareness of El Shaddai is a quiet yet transformative differentiator. It is not just a matter of praying or repeating a name without understanding, but of carrying within oneself the certainty that there is a supreme force that has already prepared the way to abundance for those who align with its principles. And more than that, invoking El Shaddai is also a gesture of humility, a recognition that true power is not only in our strategies, but in our alignment with something greater. When one acts with this awareness, the doors that once seemed locked begin to open almost naturally. These teachings, which have been carefully preserved and passed on in Jewish homes, schools, and communities around the world, still echo today in the practices of those who desire not only to succeed, but to build a financially prosperous, spiritually connected, and ethically sound life. To understand El Shaddai's energy is to take a step beyond technique. It is to touch on a principle that unites millennial wisdom and practical achievement. Those who learn to connect with this force change the way they see challenges, opportunities, and even the way they deal with the money that passes through their hands. By closely observing the practices of the most traditional Jewish families, it becomes evident that the wisdom about sacred names is not only preserved, it is lived discreetly and continuously. Inside many homes, the tradition of honoring El Shaddai begins right at the entrance. It is common to see fixed to the door frame a mezuzah, a small container that holds sacred passages, including the reference to the name Shaddai. This simple gesture is much more than a cultural tradition. Each time someone walks through the door, touches the mezuzah, and says a short silent prayer, they reaffirm their commitment to the protection, abundance, and blessing that this name invokes. This connection to prosperity is not made in an ostentatious or ritualistic way. She's subtle, but incredibly powerful. Many homes keep almost imperceptibly small souvenirs, inscriptions, or objects where the name Shaddai is present, not as magic amulets, but as daily reminders of the alliance between work, faith, and discipline. It's this kind of quiet awareness that shapes resilient, long-term, growth-oriented mindsets. In business, similar practices also manifest themselves. Ancient documents reveal that Jewish merchants and businessmen, when entering into important contracts, often discreetly included the name Shaddai in the footnotes or in the header of papers. These records, now preserved in museums and historical archives, show that for these families, invoking the blessing was not just a symbolic act, but a way to seal their transactions with integrity and hope for continued prosperity. The most interesting thing is to see how this wisdom is passed on to the following generations. It's not just about teaching finance or entrepreneurship techniques. From an early age, children learn that words have power and that the way they communicate with the world directly influences the results they reap. It is not uncommon for young people to be taught to say short prayers before starting an important activity, such as starting a new business or starting schooling, often including expressions such as, "May El Shaddai bless us with wisdom and success." This practical teaching forms a prosperity mindset that transcends economic swings and everyday challenges. Faith in the right words, aligned with strong ethics and solid financial education, builds foundations that sustain businesses and families for generations. In the midst of the rush of big cities, where the focus is often lost in the unbridled search for results, this silent practice continues to shape successful trajectories without fanfare, but with consistency and purpose. And as the exchange of experiences enriches this journey, leaving a like on this video is a way to show that this wisdom is also part of your journey. Every gesture of support strengthens this chain of prosperity that we are building together and helps spread this message to even more people. Bringing El Shaddai's strength into modern reality requires neither complicated rituals nor drastic life changes. On the contrary, the most powerful practices are those that fit naturally into everyday life and strengthen our intention to live in line with prosperity and protection. The first of these is as simple as it is transformative: to reflect daily on the meaning of the word Shaddai. Taking a few minutes of the day to meditate on the energy of sufficiency and abundance that this name carries creates a silent but profound change in our mental and emotional field. Some traditional families maintain the custom of waking up to make a brief reflection, internally repeating the name Shaddai while breathing deeply. It is not about mechanical repetition, but about a real moment of connection, where the individual reminds himself that the source of true prosperity is within, waiting to be accessed with awareness. This practice, although so simple, becomes an anchor on the most challenging days. Those who adopt it notice that the mind begins to look for opportunities more clearly, financial anxiety decreases, and confidence in their own decisions grows naturally. Small gestures like this, repeated over time, shape not only a new mindset, but also new realities. Another essential point is to pay attention to the names we choose for our projects and businesses. In the Jewish tradition, to name something is to imprint a destiny on it. Choosing words that represent purpose, strength, wisdom, and growth makes all the difference. It is not uncommon to find Jewish entrepreneurs who, when starting a new company, spend days reflecting on the ideal name, looking for an expression that not only sounds good, but that carries meaning and blessing. Even in the modern corporate world, many leaders who are mindful of their spiritual roots continue to apply this principle. Before launching a new product line or signing an important contract, some stop to review the words used, verifying that what is being created actually reflects the essence of what they want to build. It may seem subtle, but it is precisely this attention to invisible detail that differentiates projects of lasting success from initiatives that disappear quickly. In addition, an ancestral practice that remains extremely relevant is the use of expressions of blessing before closing deals. In ancient times, before a commercial exchange, it was common to wish the other prosperity and protection through specific words, and this habit survived. In many discreet business meetings, one still hears, in a low voice or in thought, a brief prayer that asks El Shaddai to bless that agreement. Integrating this into modern life is simpler than it sounds. Before sending a proposal, before an important meeting, or even when starting a new personal project, bringing to mind the energy of Shaddai and mentalizing a sincere desire for mutual success creates an environment of abundance. Not only does this attitude align our intentions with long-held principles of prosperity, but it also creates a field of trust and respect around our actions. Each of these practices, meditating on the name, naming with awareness, and blessing the projects, reinforces what the Jewish people have so carefully preserved: the understanding that the true construction of wealth begins in the invisible, in that which not everyone sees but which inevitably manifests itself in the material world for those who act wisely. Throughout this journey, it has become clear that the true secret of Jewish prosperity goes far beyond the simple repetition of holy names. It is in the way each word is lived, in the way deep values such as trust, provision, and spiritual discipline are woven into daily practice. Meditating on El Shaddai, bringing awareness to the names we choose, blessing our projects with sincere intention, all this builds a solid foundation where financial success and personal evolution go hand in hand. True prosperity is born when what we say, think, and do is aligned with what we believe. It is not just about attracting material wealth, but about creating a life where money is a natural consequence of well-applied principles. When Jewish tradition teaches about the strength of names, it is not offering magic formulas. It is offering a path of consciousness, discipline, and intelligent faith that shapes destinies across generations. Looking at one's life through this lens transforms even the smallest choices. Every word spoken in a moment of doubt, every name given to a dream or a business, every silent blessing whispered before a new beginning carries within it the power to open doors that, for others, may remain closed for a lifetime. This is the beauty of this ancient wisdom. It is silent, subtle, but absolutely transformative for those who practice it with an aligned heart. Therefore, it is worth reflecting. What name, word, or intention has guided your journey so far? What have you invoked without realizing it, in your decisions, in your daily words, in your projects? It is a simple question, but it reveals a lot about the path we are building. And for this reflection to become a milestone in your prosperity process, I want to invite you to leave a word in the comments that represents your new phase. It can be abundance, purpose, protection, or any other that connects you to what you want to build going forward. His word is not just a commentary. It is a seed planted in fertile soil, ready to bloom. Being part of a community that values Jewish wisdom and applies eternal principles to building a prosperous life is a privilege reserved for those who understand that true growth goes beyond what the eye can see. Each teaching shared here carries a living story, passed down from generation to generation, shaping mindsets, transforming families, and uplifting entire lives. So subscribe to the channel and leave your like on the video to strengthen this chain of people who believe in the power of millennial principles to achieve a full life, rich in purpose and achievements. And get ready, because what's next goes even deeper. In the next video, we'll explore a lesson that few dare reveal: how ancient Jewish masters structured their financial lives to ensure continued prosperity at all times, even in the most difficult crises. What you will discover has the power to completely change your view on wealth and success. Don't miss it.